The alien ship came without warning. It was huge, black and silent. It didn't fire any weapons. It just appeared in Earth's orbit, blocking the sun over several cities. People around the world were afraid. Governments sent messages, asking if the aliens came in peace. There was no answer for 3 hours. Then, finally, a message came. It was simple. We come for peace, and for one request. The United Nations held an emergency meeting. Leaders from all countries gathered. A landing zone was chosen in a secret desert base, far from cities. People watched live on screens, waiting to see the aliens for the first time. When the ship opened, the air changed. A cold wind swept the desert. A single figure walked out. Tall and glowing with strange silver armor, it was a woman. At least she looked like one. Her eyes were deep purple, glowing slightly. Her skin was pale like the moon. She moved like a queen, proud and calm. Everyone was silent as she stepped forward. The president of Earth's United Council greeted her. "Welcome, Empress of the Jiran Empire," he said. "We hope this is the beginning of peace." The alien woman looked at the humans. She said nothing for a moment, just scanned the crowd with her eyes. Then, in a voice clear and strange, she spoke. "I demand a prize." People looked at each other, confused. The president asked politely, "What do you mean, Empress?" She raised her hand slowly, pointing into the crowd. Her finger stopped at a man standing at the back. He was not a soldier, not a leader, just an assistant translator named John Hawley. "I want him," she said. "He is my chosen prize." Gasps filled the room. The president was shocked. "Empress, that is not possible." He said, "He is a free man." She turned to look at him, eyes glowing brighter. "Then offer someone else," she said. "But I will only leave if I take one human with me." John Hawley froze. He looked behind him, thinking maybe she pointed at someone else, but she stepped closer, eyes locked on him. "You," she said softly. "Only you." Soldiers raised their weapons, but the Empress raised one finger, and every weapon melted like plastic. No one moved after that. The room fell silent. John was breathing fast, confused and scared. "Why me?" he asked, but she gave no answer, only smiled slightly. "I will return in 1 hour," she said. "If you wish peace, the human must come." She turned and walked back to her ship. No one stopped her. The ramp closed behind her, and the ship waited. Inside the meeting room, chaos began. Leaders argued. Some said they should refuse. Others feared a war. John sat alone in a chair, shaking. He had no special training, no special skills. He was just a language expert. Why did she choose? He kept asking. No one had an answer. An hour passed quickly. Finally, John stood up. "If I go, will it stop war?" he asked. The president nodded slowly. "It might," he said, "but it's your choice." John took a deep breath. He was afraid, but something inside him was curious. Something in the Empress's eyes had felt familiar. He walked toward the ship, cameras watching his every step. The ramp opened, and she stood there again, waiting. "No cage?" he asked, trying to joke. She didn't laugh, but her eyes softened a little. "You are not a prisoner," she said. "You are the key." Before he could ask what that meant, the ship pulled him inside. The ramp closed, and the ship began to rise. People on Earth watched in silence as the alien ship left the atmosphere. No one knew what would happen next. No one knew what she meant by the key. And no one knew why she had chosen him. Inside the ship, John sat on a soft bench. The Empress sat across from him, calm and quiet. "Who are you really?" he asked. She looked at him with those deep purple eyes. "I am called Velaria," she said. "And your world has more value than you understand." He stared at her, confused. She leaned forward slightly. "I have waited a long time to find you," she whispered. Then she smiled, for the first time, and John felt cold all over. The ship vanished into deep space, and the story had just begun. John woke up, but he wasn't sure if he had slept at all. The ceiling above him shimmered like moving glass. changing colors slowly. The room was quiet, too quiet. No engines. No machines, just silence, like space itself was holding its breath. He sat up on the soft bed and looked around. The room didn't feel like a prison. There were no bars, no guards, only soft lights, a table with fruit-like food, and a mirror that didn't reflect. His heart still raced. He remembered everything, the Empress, the demand leaving Earth. It felt like a dream, but the strange air in his lungs told him this was real. Then the door opened, but made no sound. A tall silver figure stepped in, not the Empress, but one of her people. His face was smooth, with no mouth, and his eyes glowed a soft blue. The Empress will speak with you soon, the being said in a voice inside John's mind. Please prepare yourself. For what? John asked, standing, but the figure had already turned and left. The door closed behind him like melting water. John walked toward the mirror, trying to see himself, but the glass showed stars instead of his reflection. He reached out and touched, and the stars shifted. He saw Earth blue, distant, turning slowly in the black sea of space. He whispered to himself, "What is happening to me?" Moments later, the door opened again. This time she walked in. The Empress, Valeria, still wore her silver armor, but now there was something different in her eyes. She looked tired. "You slept well," she said. Sitting across from him, he didn't answer, just stared at her. "Why did you choose me?" he asked again. She smiled gently. "I didn't choose you," she said. "The stars did." He laughed once, nervously. "I'm just a translator, a normal guy." She tilted her head slightly. "There is nothing normal about you, John Holly." She stood up and walked to the mirror. With a wave of her hand, the stars vanished, replaced by an image. A map made of light, with circles, lines, and names he didn't understand. "This is the core path," she said. "It's older than my empire, older than your planet's history." She pointed at one bright point on the map. "This star will die in 20 days, she said. "When it does, it will awaken a force hidden for 10,000 years. He stared at the map, trying to make sense of it. "And what do I have to do with that?" he asked. She looked at him with those purple eyes, deeper than the sea. "You carry something inside you. Something ancient," she said. "Your DNA has a signal, a pattern we've seen only once before." John stepped back. "You're saying I'm some kind of chosen one?" She nodded once. "You were born on Earth, but your blood is not only human. Long ago, before humans learned fire, someone left a message in your kind. You are the message." John's head spun. None of this made sense, and yet, part of him felt it was true. Something inside him stirred, like a forgotten voice waking up. Valeria walked closer, slowly. "You are not my prisoner, John," she said. "You are my hope." He looked at her, fear still in his chest. "I don't want to be anyone's hope," he said. She smiled sadly. "None of us do." She handed him a crystal sphere. It glowed softly in his hand. The moment he touched it, images flashed in his mind. Burning skies, broken stars, voices screaming in a language he didn't know but somehow understood, and at the center of it all, himself, standing in a place of fire and metal, holding the same sphere. He dropped it and fell to his knees, gasping. "What was that?" He whispered. "Your future," she said. "Or your past, depending on how you see it." He looked up at her, his voice shaking. "Why me?" This time, her answer was quiet, almost a whisper. "Because long ago, I dreamed of a man who would save both our kinds. And when I saw you on Earth, I knew the dream had returned." The room faded darker. The stars returned to the mirror, and John sat there, holding the glowing sphere. Still just a man, but no longer just human. The lights spoke before anyone did, not with sound, not with words, but with patterns, blinking across the walls of the corridor as John walked alone. It was night, or whatever counted as night inside a ship that never saw a sun. Valeria had told him to rest, but sleep would not come, not after visions of fire, of stars dying. and of himself standing in a storm of light. The door to his room had not locked. Maybe that was a test. Or maybe they simply didn't fear him. He stepped out quietly. The hallway was long, glowing soft blue, and strangely alive. The floor hummed under his feet like it had a pulse. He whispered to himself, "This place feels like it's breathing." At the end of the corridor, he found a door with no handle. He placed his hand on it. It opened instantly, as if the ship had been waiting for him. Inside, the air felt colder and darker. The room was filled with tall glass tubes, glowing faint green. John stepped closer. Inside the first tube was a body, human or almost human. A man, eyes closed, floating, breathing slowly. John gasped and moved to the next tube, another body, this time a woman. The third tube showed a child. They all looked asleep, not dead, not alive, frozen in time. He backed away, his heart pounding. "What is this?" he whispered. A light flickered above him. Then a voice spoke, not Valaria's. It was older, deeper, and came from the air itself. "You are not the first," the voice said. John turned around, trying to see where it came from. "Who said that?" He called. "I am the Watcher of the Core," the voice replied. "I have waited 6,012 cycles for someone like you." A console lit up on the wall. It showed thousands of names, all human, all marked. Failed, failed, failed. John's own name was at the bottom, next to it. Active. He stared at it, his hands cold. What were they trying to do with these people? A shape formed in the room, made of light and dust. It looked like a tall-robed figure with no face. A signal was sent to Earth long ago. It said, only some humans received it. Those with the pattern, like me? John asked, his voice shaking. "Yes," the figure said. "You are part of the star line." He didn't know what that meant, but it felt heavy, like it mattered more than he could understand. What happened to the others? He asked, looking at the sleeping people in the tubes. They were close, the voice said, but not ready. John looked again at the last tube. The child's eyes opened suddenly, glowing faint blue, then closed again. John stepped back in fear. "What is this ship doing?" he asked. Before the voice could answer, another door opened. Valaria stepped in, her face unreadable. "You weren't supposed to come here yet," she said softly. John turned to her, angry now. "You're experimenting on humans," he said. "You've been doing this for years." Valaria walked to the tubes and placed a hand on the glass. "These are not experiments," she said. "They are possibilities." He stared at her. "You knew about all this and still chose me." She nodded. "Because the ship chose you." He felt the floor hum louder under his feet. The ship wasn't just alive. It was watching him, testing him, preparing him. Valaria looked at the glowing console. "This place is older than both our races," she said. "The ones who built." It left behind tools and warnings. John stepped closer to her. "What kind of warnings?" She turned to him, her voice low, that a human would awaken something powerful, something hidden, something the galaxy fears. The tubes began to glow brighter behind them, and in the glass John saw his reflection, but it wasn't just him. Behind his eyes, something else blinked, ancient and unknown. He touched his chest, his heartbeat felt different, like it wasn't only his anymore. Valaria placed a hand on his shoulder. "You are not like the others," she said. "You were not just born for this, you were shaped for it." The voice of the ship returned. "The trial begins now," it said. "Prepare the chosen." The room darkened, and the tubes disappeared into the floor. Only John remained, standing in a circle of light, with Valaria beside him, and the ship itself watching. John was not dreaming. He knew that now, because dreams don't hurt. And this pain felt real. He stood in a room that had no walls, no ceiling, no ground, only light, spinning and pulsing like a living heartbeat. His own body was floating, but he could feel weight pressing down on his thoughts. A voice echoed, not from outside, but from deep inside his head. "Begin the trial," it said. then everything shattered. Light became fire. His feet slammed onto a rocky ground beneath a purple sky. Alien ruins rose around him, broken towers, strange symbols floating. Stones, he looked around, breathing hard. "Where am I?" he said, but no one answered, not Valaria, not the ship, not even the Watcher. Then he heard footsteps. He turned, expecting a guard or a hologram, but instead, he saw himself, another John, same face, same eyes, but colder, sharper, darker. The second John smiled without warmth. "Welcome to the inside of your mind," the copy said. "I'm the part of you that knows the truth." John stepped back. "What truth?" he asked. The other John laughed. "That you're not a hero," he said. "That you're afraid, weak, and completely unready for what's coming." The world around them twisted. Now they stood in a war zone, bodies, fire, machines screaming. In the sky, John covered his ears, trying to block the sounds, but they kept growing louder. The other John walked calmly through the fire. "Do you really think Valaria chose you out of love?" he asked. "She chose you because she had no better option," John shouted back. "Shut up, you're not real." "But your fear is real," the other John said. "And the truth is coming for you." Then the world vanished. Silence again. John opened his eyes and saw the glass room, the real room inside the ship. Valaria stood beside him, her hand on a glowing control crystal. "You passed the first layer," she said. He fell to the floor, dizzy and cold. What was that?" he asked. She knelt beside him. "A test of the mind," she said. "The ship reads your fears and feeds them back to you." "Why?" he asked. "To see if you break," she replied. "Because the one who holds the core must not break." John looked up at her. "Why me?" he asked again. Valaria looked down, eyes softer now. "You're still asking that question," she said. "But soon you'll ask something else." She helped him stand. Another door opened. This one led to a narrow corridor lit by red crystals. John walked forward slowly, every step heavier than the last. At the end of the hall, a platform floated in space. Valaria stopped. "You must go alone," she said. John stepped forward, unsure. The moment he touched the platform, stars exploded around him. He saw thousands of worlds, billions of voices, and through it all, one pulsing signal, calling him by name. "John Halley," it whispered. "Bearer of the pattern, hearer of the core." He dropped to his knees again, overwhelmed. "I can't do this," he said. But the voice replied, "You already are." Behind him, Valaria watched, saying nothing. She turned away, her voice low, almost sad. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. "He passed the fear. Now comes the truth." The platform pulled John upward into a spiral of light. His eyes glowed faintly, and inside his mind, the other John, the shadow version, smiled quietly, still there, still watching. Because the greatest enemy is not the Empress, not the war, not the ship. The greatest enemy is himself. The stars were speaking, not in words, but in patterns. Flashes of light across black space, pulsing like a heartbeat. John stood in the middle of it all, floating, watching the stars blink like signals. Each blink came with a sound, not noise. But feeling, he felt sorrow, hope, rage, and something deeper than memory. Then everything froze. And the voice returned. "The core remembers," it whispered. "And now, so will you." A wave of light rushed into John's chest. He gasped, eyes wide, as forgotten visions filled his mind. He saw a giant tree, its roots wrapped around a planet. He saw humans in golden armor fighting creatures made of shadow. He saw a woman with glowing eyes standing before a galaxy on fire. And then he saw himself, older, stronger, standing beside Valaria, facing a throne made of bones. Suddenly, the light vanished, and he collapsed on the cold floor of the meditation chamber. Valaria was there, already kneeling beside him. She looked worried, but calm. "You saw it," she said, not asking, just knowing. John nodded slowly. "I saw everything," he whispered. "But I don't understand it." Valaria helped him sit up. Her voice was soft, more human than before. "Those are not memories," she said. "They are echoes of the future." John stared at her, eyes full of confusion. "Why me?" he asked for the last time. Valaria took a deep breath, then stood. "It's time I told you the truth," she said. "The whole truth." She touched a panel, and the walls of the chamber dissolved into a starfield. They were no longer on the ship. It felt like they were standing in open space. But they could breathe, speak, feel. A giant hologram appeared. It showed a spiral symbol, ancient, glowing, alive. "This is the spiral pattern," Valaria said. "It exists in the DNA of a rare few across the galaxy, and only in humans does it form completely." John stared at the pattern. "It's inside me?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "And it makes you more than you understand." She walked toward him. "Thousands of years ago, my people received a warning," she said, "that a great silence was coming, a void that would eat stars. The prophecy said only the one who carries the complete pattern can awaken the core, and the core can stop the silence." John shook his head. "This sounds like fantasy." Valaria looked into his eyes, serious and still. "It was fantasy," she said, "until you touched the relic, and it responded to you." She raised her hand and summoned the same sphere he had held before. It hovered between them, glowing brighter than before. "It's no longer just a key," she said. "It's bonded to you." John stepped back. "I didn't ask for this," he said. "I don't want to be the galaxy's answer." Valaria lowered her hand, and the sphere faded. "Neither did I," she said quietly. "But we don't always get to choose." He sat down, exhausted. "But why would the galaxy choose a translator from Earth?" She gave a small smile. "Because Earth is not small," she said. "Your people have done in centuries what others could not in thousands. You fight, you adapt, you feel. And the pattern responds to feeling." John looked up at her. "You believe all this?" "With my whole soul," she said. He looked into the stars again. Something deep inside him stirred. Not fear, not doubt, but a quiet fire. "Then train me," he said finally. "Whatever this thing is, whatever the core needs. I want to understand it." Valaria stepped forward and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then we begin," she said. Behind them, the stars shifted again, and far away, on the edge of the galaxy, a dark presence awoke. Its eyes opened, its silence spread, and it whispered one word into the void. "Soon." Asterisk. The training chamber was quiet. Too quiet. John stood at the center of a glowing circle, hands raised, eyes closed, breathing steady. The core sphere floated above his palm, spinning slowly. It was no longer just a relic. It responded to his thoughts, his emotions, his will. Valaria watched from behind a tall screen. She had seen others try and fail to control the core, but none had ever reached this level. John was different, and that terrified her more than she showed. A soft hiss echoed from the hallway. One of her generals stepped in. Tarek, tall, armored in red, his face sharp like stone. He bowed slightly, but his eyes were cold. "You should not be watching alone," he said. She didn't look at him. "I trust him," she said. Tarek's voice dropped lower. "You trust a human." Valaria finally turned. "I trust this human," she said. "He is bonded to the core. He sees visions no one else has seen." Tarek took a step closer. "Or he's feeding the core something dangerous. His people are wild, unpredictable, violent. He is becoming more than his people," Valaria replied, but her voice had a hint of uncertainty. Inside the chamber, John's eyes opened. The sphere glowed bright gold. Symbols danced in the air around him, ancient Jiran runes and something else. Something no one could read. The door behind him hissed open. He turned quickly, expecting Valaria, but instead Tarek stepped in, holding a curved blade of light. "Training is over," Tarek said. John lowered his hands, confused. "Where's Valaria?" he asked. "She sent me," Tarek lied. "She wishes to test your defense." John narrowed his eyes. Something didn't feel right, but before he could speak, Turek attacked, fast, brutal, silent. John jumped back, the sphere blocking the blade. With a flash of light, "What are you doing?" John shouted. "This is not a test." Turek smiled coldly. "No, it's not." He swung again, this time faster. John dodged barely, the core flared and threw a wave of energy, blasting Turek back. Valaria ran in a moment later, guards behind her. "Stop!" she cried, but it was too late. Turek stood and pointed at John. "He's dangerous," he said. "He's becoming something else, something the galaxy cannot control." The guards hesitated, unsure who to believe. Valaria walked past them, straight to Turek, and for a moment she said nothing. Then she whispered, "You were like a brother. You were supposed to protect him." Turek's eyes narrowed. "I was trying to protect you," he hissed. "He is the end of everything." "We know." John stepped forward, breathing hard. His clothes were burned, hands glowing with core energy. He looked at Valaria. "Is this true?" he asked. "Do they all think I'm a threat?" She turned to him, pain in her eyes. "Some do," she said. "But not me." Turek growled and raised his weapon again. But Valaria struck first. Her hand moved like lightning. Her blade cut through his armor, and he fell to the floor. He looked at her, eyes full of betrayal. "I only wanted to save you," he whispered. She knelt beside him as the light faded from his eyes. "And I only wanted peace," she replied. The room fell silent. John stared at the fallen general, then at Valaria. "Your people fear me," he said. "They think I'll become a monster." She looked at him, voice shaking. "They fear what they don't understand." "And do you understand, Emmy?" he asked. "I don't know," she said. "But I believe in you." John looked at the core in his hand. The sphere pulsed gently. It felt warm now, not just powerful, but alive. Valaria placed a hand on his shoulder. "I didn't choose you for politics," she said. "I chose you because I saw you in a vision before I ever came to Earth. You stood beside me, not as a weapon, but as a bridge." He looked into her eyes. There was something real there, something he hadn't seen in anyone else since he left Earth. Trust, not in what he was, but in what he could become behind them. The ship dimmed its lights, mourning the betrayal of one of its oldest warriors. And deep in its hidden systems, the Watcher reactivated. The silence had felt the shift. The core had awakened too early, and the end had moved closer. The stars bent, not visibly, not loudly, but somewhere in the deep silence of space. Something ancient stirred, something old enough to remember when the stars were young, and angry enough to want them all gone. John stood in the temple of the core. It was not a building. It was a machine, a mind, a heart, built by hands long gone, older than Valaria's empire, older than Earth's sun. The chamber was round, filled with shifting rings of light. Each ring moved with the rhythm of John's heartbeat. He stepped forward, holding the core sphere, now glowing bright gold and pulsing softly. Valaria stood behind him, her hand resting over a wound still healing. She had nearly died to protect him. Now he was here to protect them all. "You're sure this is the only way?" he asked. Her voice was quiet. "There is no path without pain," she said. "But if you open the core, you'll become something else." John looked at the glowing platform in front of him. At its center was a mark that matched his palm exactly. He took a deep breath. "I was never meant to be a hero," he said. "You became one the moment you chose not to run," Valaria replied. He stepped forward, placed the sphere in the center. The rings above him stopped moving. Then a voice older than any language echoed around the chamber. Pattern confirmed. "Bearer of spiral, your awakening begins." Light exploded upward. His body rose off the ground, suspended in gold. Flashes of memory rushed through him, his childhood on Earth, his first job, the moment Valaria chose him, and deeper still visions that weren't his own. He saw stars forming, worlds dying, ships as large as moons. He saw himself hundreds of versions, across time, across realities, in every one. Spiral pattern found him. In every one, he was the same soul, carried forward. Valario watched in awe. The core was rewriting his biology, reshaping his thoughts, not erasing his humanity, amplifying it. His fear became focus, his doubt became understanding, and his hope became power. The silence came, not as a ship, not as a person, but as a shadow that swallowed starlight. Across the galaxy, systems went dark. The watcher inside the ship whispered, "The end has arrived," but John opened his eyes. And the rings spun faster. The core reached into the fabric of space and began to push back. Every world that had gone dark lit up again. A signal pulsed from John's mind to every corner of the stars. He wasn't just using the core, he was the core now. Valaria stepped forward, her voice cracked with emotion. "John?" He turned to her, glowing, calm, and still somehow the same. "I remember everything," he said. "I remember the first spiral, the first silence, the first star." She placed a hand on his cheek. "Are you still you?" she asked. He smiled gently. "Yes," he said, "but more." The shadow struck, the chamber shook, reality warped. But John stepped forward, and time slowed. He raised one hand, and the light obeyed him. He whispered something, one word unknown, ancient, perfect, and the shadow began to break, not with fire, but with truth. A wave of memory, sound and feeling spread through the stars. Every being heard it. Every species remembered their shared beginning, and the silence screamed. It had no place in a galaxy awake. It shattered into sparks, fading into the void from where it came. John fell to his knees, gasping. The rings slowed. The core dimmed, but the stars were safe. Valaria ran to him, holding him. "You did it," she whispered. "No," he replied, smiling. "We did. Later." The Empress of Jaren stood before her people. Beside her was not a soldier, not a general, but a human, a translator, a man who became a bridge between empires. John Hale, bearer of the pattern, guardian of the core, and the first human to be remembered. Not as a visitor, but as a legend, and somewhere, far away, the stars whispered his name, not in fear, but in gratitude.